Hey guys! In the session today, we will look at the passive voice. We can either use the active voice or the passive voice to write a sentence. When we use the active voice, the person or thing that does the action comes first. We use the active voice to say what the subject does. Below are two examples using the active voice. Many Chinese communities around the world celebrate Chinese New Year. Mum baked the Christmas cake. On the other hand, when we use the passive voice, the person or thing that receives the action becomes the subject and comes first. We use the passive voice to say that something is done or happens to the subject. We use the preposition by if we want to say who or what performs or performed the action. The following is an example. In the active voice, the sentence would be, Chinese communities around the world celebrate Chinese New Year. However, in the passive voice, the person or thing that receives the action comes first. That's why Chinese New Year becomes the subject in the passive sentence. The whole sentence is, Chinese New Year is celebrated by Chinese communities around the world. With the example given above, can you try to form a passive sentence yourself? Mum baked the Christmas cake. Remember to put the person or thing that receives the action at the beginning of the sentence. The correct answer is, the Christmas cake was baked by Mum. One question you may perhaps have in mind is, why should we use the passive voice? The passive voice is used when it is not important or impossible to tell who or what causes an action. In such cases, we do not need to mention who or what performs the action in the sentence. Look at the example below. The Christmas cake was baked. In this case, we just want to tell others that there is a baked Christmas cake, but who baked it is not important. Compare the sentence above with the following. Mum baked the Christmas cake. In this sentence, we want to emphasize that it was Mum who baked the cake. You should now have a basic understanding of how the passive voice works. Can you write two sentences using the passive voice? From the above, we have covered the usage of the passive voice. Now, how about its form? The passive voice is formed by using the appropriate form of the verb to be and the past participle. Here are some examples. For the simple present tense, we use am, are, or is followed by the past participle, like the examples below. The active sentence, I plant trees on New Year's Day, can be changed into the passive sentence, trees are planted on New Year's Day. For the simple past tense, we use was or were followed by the past participle. Look at the example sentences on your screen. I planted trees last New Year's Day, which is in the active voice, becomes trees were planted last New Year's Day, which is in the passive voice. For will, we use will be followed by the past participle. The following is an example. I will plant trees next New Year's Day becomes trees will be planted next New Year's Day when we change it into the passive voice. That is how you can form sentences with the passive voice. Now we will go on to talk about forming negative statements and questions. They are formed as follows. Suppose we have the sentence, presents were given out this year. To form a negative statement, it is changed to presents were not given out this year. We simply put not between the verb to be and the past participle to form negative statements. For a question, it would become, were presents given out this year? To form questions, we put the verb to be at the beginning of the sentence, then the subject between the verb to be and the past participle. Also, we can form the passive voice with a modal verb, can, may, etc., by using a modal verb and be followed by the past participle. Here is an example. Presents may be given out next year. Compare this with the following. We may give out presents next year. In the passive sentence, who may give out presents is not important or unknown. What the speaker wants to emphasize is that someone may give out presents next year.